Hey guys, I've got a fabulous guest for you today for the podcast, Lynell Green, coming out of Northern California. And she's got a very interesting background. She's a CEO, mindset executive coach, speaker, corporate trainer. And I'm really happy to have her on the show to enlighten the audience, yes, about CEOs, entrepreneurship, and actually female leadership as well. So I'm really happy to have her. So Lynell, welcome.
Thank you, Doctor. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I love the informality of this podcast. So everybody calls me Chris, and so introduce yourself and talk about how you got started.
Great. Okay, Chris. I it seems like I got started when I was like 7 years old. I think that was the first time I talked to my mother about something that I wanted that she didn't necessarily agree with, which was it was bedtime. And I said, "Who said it's bedtime?" And she said, that doesn't make it true. So I think it was then, and I remember that conversation and we joke about it. That was when I really discovered my voice and that I had an opportunity to have an opinion. And not that I won that battle, I did not, but it did begin a journey for me of actually what I now call audacious leadership, where I am not hesitant to at least voice my opinion, share my perspective, encourage others to do the same, and healthy debate with insight, of course, emotional intelligence, cultural intelligence, all of those lovely things. So that's where it began. From a educational standpoint, I actually grew up in Hawaii and graduated from the University of Hawaii, worked in an international CPA firm for years, worked in corporate for years, going on to be the treasurer of a publicly held global entertainment company for years in Southern California. And then somewhere along the way, Chris, I discovered that I am not an accountant per se. I'm more of a consultant as opposed to doing the spreadsheets myself. So I pivoted and started doing more leadership training, executive coaching, and that is my sweet spot. I love helping people with my financial background. It gives me a lot of depth in terms of helping leaders understand their KPIs and ROIs, and at the same time, on soft skills, understanding what it looks like to lead yourself, first of all, and then lead your teams and lead your companies.
Interesting. Which kind of brings us to the into the conversation, and the idea of a leader, concept of leader, is really evolving and changing. So, what is your definition of a leader in today's really fast-paced and really disruptive environment?
Right. And I think, Chris, you bring up a great point because I think this environment of disruption is from now on. Sometimes people say there's a season of disruption. I think we have to have our seatbelts on, that we are now with technology, probably for the rest of our lives, are going to be in a season of disruptions. One analogy that I love to bring forward, and that is the Coast Guard, they get trained to drop down into 40-foot waves and rescue people that have gotten in trouble. And we watch them and it looks easy, but we know it took training. And I think one of the things that we as leaders can overstep if we're not careful, that we assume we can handle 40-foot waves versus knowing that there's training that is needed to be successful. You could drop into a 40-foot wave if you want to, but you may not win that game. So to answer your question, Chris, I think leadership starts with leading yourself. I think everybody is a CEO of your own company called you. And if you don't do that, anything you build after that is going to be on shaky ground. So that's where it starts. And I really fundamentally think that solid leaders have to have their eyes on many things, of course, but three pillars. And that is the past, the present, and the future. And the past, not to make you, because sometimes we look back and we go, oh my God, why did I do that? That wasn't very smart. That wasn't the brightest thing that I could have chosen. But the past can be very informative for ourselves as we're managing ourselves and our companies and teams and industries that we're in. So looking at the past, getting the learnings, bringing them forward, and then being real and honest with ourselves about the present. There's so much uncertainty, to your point, Chris, so much disruption currently in the present. We can't have our head in the sand. Like we all know the Blockbuster story, right? Where we think it's going to be that way forever. It won't. So in the present, we have to be agile. We have to be bold, courageous, willing to face the things that are coming our way, and then be curious. Because if you're scared, I don't think many of us don't do our best work when we're fearful, right? And I think that it's important that we have the courage to face all of the challenges. And then lastly, but not least, the future. We have to have a vision for where we're going from here. And right now it's hard to do 3 to 5, 10-year planning. Are you kidding? We have no idea. But at least 12 months, 18 months out, you should have a vision, because if you're a leader and people are following you, they don't want to think that you're walking around in the forest lost. You have to have something to say about what you believe for the future, even if you have to pivot when you get there, but have a vision. So past, present, future is fundamentally where I start with leadership, Chris. And it starts with yourself. And then, of course, your teams, your organizations, and hopefully you're making a difference out in society as well.
Yeah, I really love that. Everybody is becoming the CEO of you. And if you don't do that, you're going to get swept up. So, how can individuals at different levels of an organization, and you mentioned people in their personal lives, how can they adopt a CEO mindset to enhance their leadership and productivity, not only in their careers, but also in their families and personal lives?
Yeah, really great question. Chris, I actually did a podcast in Houston called The CEO Mindset is for Everyone. And it's fundamentally exactly what you're pointing to. And many times in our personal life, I'll start there, we don't think about having KPIs and having OKRs and things like that. We don't. We typically are floating along. We might have some goals, financial goals, and with our kids, money we want saved, and maybe a light touch on retirement. We have some soft goals, most of us do. How many stamps we want on our passport. But I think there's an opportunity to bring the rigor that we take into the corporate world or our businesses to our home life. And what I mean by that is there's a thing that I like to point to. Many times when we have a hard time, anything at home, financially or with our kids or whatever, sometimes we've neglected the day-to-day maintenance things. And I think we need to be rigorous with the maintenance around our money, our health, our vitality, and also supporting and being. We don't always think about holding our spouses and children accountable, but if we don't, we're setting them up to think that maybe life does have a silver spoon, and it might, but there's also a fork and a knife and some other tools that you're going to have to deal with. So I think it starts with being willing to be rigorous, but not, when I say that, not like a military environment, right? My dad was in the Navy. I grew up living in a military environment in Hawaii. I understand the culture of shut up and march and just do what you're told. We know that is not the culture that works. But I do believe that everybody has a leadership style. I think it's important that you find that and you continue to develop that so that you bring the values that you care about from home to work and out into your community. I think that's the net that we continue to spread for ourselves. And Chris, I also think that it's important that we understand we're still evolving. The things I cared about 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I may not even be able to articulate right now. And then there's some foundational things that are the same, but we are evolving and growing. And I think it's important that we give ourselves permission to do that and give the people around us permission to do that.
I love that. What I gathered from was accountability, responsibility, and you talked about growth. And so, what personal habits or routines have you found crucial for leaders aiming to adopt the CEO mindset both in their professional and personal lives?
The first thing is to make sure, at least from my perspective, that you have a plan and that plan is in pencil. Because we can get attached to a plan and that could actually be our demise. So we want to have a plan, but actually have it in pencil, knowing that things may come, obstacles may show up that we have to pivot or be agile around. That's the first thing. The second thing is have executable steps on that plan. You and I have both met very intelligent people that are sitting in front of their computers with elaborate spreadsheets and charts and pitch decks, and it never goes beyond that. So we have to have a plan, but we have to have executable steps for that plan to manifest itself. And then we have to execute. And I think it's important that we understand ourselves. How do we execute the best? Everybody doesn't execute the same. They don't. And I think if you're trying to follow, Warren Buffett's life, and then you sit down and you think you're Warren Buffett Jr., probably not. So you have to discover and I do think I'm going to footnote it here, Chris, that it has to be a way that brings you joy, that your leadership style, you want to cultivate it so that it brings you joy. You may find somebody that I like their style, and you start trying to implement, and it feels like you're walking in what I call walking in the mud, in the dark, with high heels, up a hill, in the rain, with the backpack full of rocks. Like, it's hard. And so you want to be smart enough to know that's not me. That's great on them, but that's not me. And you just keep refining who you are as a leader. And when I say a leader, once again, it's how you're leading yourself, how you're leading others. And one of the other things that we don't always talk about, but leadership also includes how you influence others, managing up, paying attention to your stakeholder map, all the people that you're impacting and that are impacting you. That's all part of your leadership field, so to speak. And all of those different relationships require various aspects of you in order for them to be successful and for your relationship to be successful.
Mm,
That answered your question. I feel like I kind of
yeah.
gave you a little bit of this and that.
Yeah, that was very powerful. The path of a successful leader, whether in an organization or in your personal life, is not always rosy. What are some of the most common pitfalls that hinder success, and how can people avoid them before they actually happen?
I love that, Chris. Avoid them before they actually happen. I'm telling you, if my crystal ball was clear, I would be a billionaire. I'm telling you, don't go that way, because for sure the bridge is out. If I could tell you, but I think it's really critical in terms of our success as leaders that we are paying attention, because so many things, there are clues, and sometimes we can get to what Peter Drucker wrote years ago, this thing about arrogant intelligence. And what he was pointing to is that we can be so smart and so bright that we think we know. And that whole thing of thinking you know is really what gets us in trouble, because we will run through a red light thinking we know that maybe it didn't go well for that person, but it's going to go well for me. Why? Because I'm smart, I'm bright, I'm intelligent. So I know I can make that work. So paying attention and being realistic with what you say, and how you handle what is, I think, critical. Not so much, I don't think we can avoid problems, but being prepared for problems. The whole thing about earthquake preparedness and every other list of preparedness that we have, I think in business, it's the same thing. Be prepared. What if? What if AI does take over your profession? What if the service you currently provide is no longer needed, or the product you actually are selling now, you have a disruptor and you're no longer relevant? Like, you have to take the time to explore those things that can happen and then be prepared.
I love that. One of the biggest things I learned during my training is be consciously aware of what's going on in your environment, and don't go to situations or circumstances that you know is going to get you in trouble. Just, avoid them because there's so much at stake. So next question I have for you is, because I always love this idea of just innovation. We talked about Blockbuster and Kmart and just companies that just refuse to innovate. So how can leaders foster a culture of innovation and creativity in high environments, very volatile, fast-paced, disruptive, as well as in the face of kind of corporations and governments, these slow-moving entities?
Yeah, great question, Chris. So one thing I think, I really do think it's important that we start day understanding that whatever we're currently doing is going to be obsolete eventually. It will, and the way that we're doing it anyway. If we start there, then we know we can get good at what we're currently doing, but we have to have our eye on innovation all the time. I think that the mistake is when we think what we're doing is it. We can look at all of the big companies, tech in particular. The way Facebook started is not the way it looks today. The way Apple started, the way Amazon started, the way all of Google, the way they started, Microsoft, they don't look that way today. Now, there may be some elements of what they were committed to that are there, but how they've evolved has been in response to what's going on in the marketplace, what's happening with competitors, new technology that gets actually introduced, and also the human resource. As people get smarter, they bring that intelligence into these organizations. As we get smarter, bring that intelligence in. I think if you're looking at whatever you're doing today, know that it most likely is obsolete. Somebody's in their garage trying to disrupt whatever you're doing right now. So if you can understand that, not take it personally, but actually continue to evolve yourself and evolve your business, your practices, your values continue to evolve. I think you'll be ready, at least to the best of your ability, when those disruptions come, because they will come. They will, not they might, they will.
Yeah. Yeah, I always love that. Anytime I get a new idea, I'm always like, how long will this last before it changes? And I'm like always thinking like, how long? I'm always thinking about how can what is the next thing that will put me out of business and how can I stay ahead of that? And just developing new skills, reaching out, just staying constantly ahead of the curve. I really love the vibe in this. One thing that we talk about is this idea of leadership beyond titles. And we talked about how even if you're not in the C-suite or middle management, how are individuals who aren't in traditional leadership roles, they'll take on a leadership mindset and create impact within them, like solopreneurs or self-employed or small business owners.
Yeah. I think that I mentioned earlier that we all have a stakeholder map. Even if you're a solopreneur sitting in your home office or at your dining room table trying to get something done today, you need people. That's still, you can call yourself a solopreneur, but to be successful, you still need people, whether it's your informal marketing team or the people that love you and tell others about you, or your chamber group or your Toastmaster group or your Rotary Club, wherever there's other places that you go, that there are people that, number one, care about you, and number two, are committed to your success, even if they're not cheering, they don't have a cheerleader clothes on every day. But I think it's important that we understand that there are people, that our success depends on people, and our ability to cultivate those relationships. And I'm going to put a little footnote here. I love my footnotes, as you notice, but that we build relationships that are not just transactional. Many times you notice entrepreneurs walk into a room. Who can I do a deal with? Who can I network with? How can this person help me? Many times you don't know the answer. This person may be a stay-at-home mom, but you don't know that their brother is the CEO of whatever, and they can get you in a door that who you think has their hand on the doorknob does not. So I think if we just embrace humanity as a privilege, everyone that we get to connect with, and not have it be transactional, but have it be a space of gratitude for what they're contributing to the world, and we build deeper relationships. And then it's really, I'm always fascinated when I get a phone call, someone says, no, can you come and speak here? Can you come do a workshop here? From somebody that on the surface would not be the one making that phone call or sending me that email. So I think that's fundamentally, it's the people, Chris, at the end of the day. We can be as smart as we want, but if we don't know anybody that wants to buy our product or service, those are people. If we don't know anybody that wants to continue to support us and help us, very few of us know all that needs to be known to be successful. We need people to help us with our website and our SEO and our marketing and our branding and we need people.
Yeah, I love that. What a fantastic way to end this conversation. We're all interrelated and we all depend on each other. How can people find you and check out your work? And I know your team has done amazing work and reach out to you and work with you.
The best thing currently, we are under construction. I tease my team that we have to take that sign down eventually, but we are under construction. But the website, going linnellsplace.com, is the place you can subscribe, and where are the upcoming programs that we're putting together. That's where they'll be published. If you want to connect with me directly, you can send an email to Linnell at linnellsplace.com, and I'd love to have a conversation.
Yeah, and for all the audience, I really enjoyed this conversation and just gold gems of wisdom. And be sure to reach out to Linnell and you can follow her socials. And thanks so much for an amazing conversation.
My privilege, Chris. Thank you for the work you're doing.